Hello, welcome back to the Stretford Paddock podcast, where today I'm joined by Nathan and Damien.
It's over. It's finally over, guys. Season's over. Feel a bit deflated. How do you guys feel?
I don't know. That's if we don't already know, stating the obvious. Manchester United were beaten 2-0 at home by an already relegated Cardiff on Saturday. We officially got Neil Warnocked, or on Sunday I should say. We officially got Warnocked on Sunday, didn't we?
Officially Neil Warnocked in a performance that you can describe as pretty much shambolic in a way, because this is 2 weeks in a row now where we faced an already relegated side, and they seem to have more fight than us.
It's really showing how I think the players, as the season's gone along, haven't given their all. By the end of the game, I think really we can all say Greenwood and Gomez were really the only people giving it up their all, it seemed, at the end. And you look at the 11 players on the pitch for Cardiff at all times, they seemed like they were chasing that ball. And of course, like you just said, Nathan, they're a relegated side, and we're sat there at 6. You know, it's not a game that we necessarily needed to win, but at the same time, we should never be losing against Cardiff, and we shouldn't ever be drawing against a team like Huddersfield. So the last 2 games just really felt, I don't know, like there was nothing that they could give, and it felt a bit exhausted by the end, like it was a bit of a chore. And I just can't wait to see now what we're going to do with the summer, because there's a lot of problems that we've seen from the team towards the end of the season, and it's always been there. But I think now it's becoming very apparent who the problems are and what really needs to be solved.
Yeah, I mean, me and you were doing the fan cams outside the ground just before the game on Sunday, and there was even a Cardiff fan who came up to us and said that he predicts that our lads are going to beat you 2-0 because, and it shouldn't come as any surprise at this stage, that Cardiff just, and teams like Cardiff just have that extra bit of drive. Yeah. That right now, players, I mean, we have nothing to play for. We had nothing to play for on Sunday, but that doesn't excuse. The players already have their summer holidays booked, and you could tell. There's a couple of clips of Pogba going viral. We'll get onto that later with the whole Patrice Evra stuff, don't worry. But, I mean, I felt on Saturday it was just a lot of the players just were ready to go. It was almost as if they'd been told that they were going to leave already.
Here's the thing. You think, well, this end of season game, it felt, you could argue it was a bit flat going into it because we had nothing to play for. It's hard for a fan to sort of get motivated. Say if top 4 was on the line and they put in that performance, I think people would have been sort of more angry and more like sort of gyrate about it. But since we had nothing to play for, it was sort of hard to get yourself motivated for it anyway. So like I said, Cardiff were already down, but it seemed as though they were playing for. It seemed as though they were still playing for Premier League survival. Yeah. And towards the end, like they'd been relegated. They were fantastic the whole game, by the way. The Cardiff fans, they got relegated, and they were having send off for the likes of Aaron Gunnarsson. They were giving Warnock a standing ovation. It's like they've just been relegated. Whereas with most of the fans at Old Trafford at full time, they just couldn't wait to get out of there. No, and it's such a different sort of it's a weird thing to see. So one team staying in the Premier League, right? Well, the biggest club in English football, and yet fans don't want to stay because of how bad it's been. Yet one club's getting relegated, like we're already down, and yet their fans staying towards you and clapping them off, giving a standing ovation, because at least they've seen effort aside from their team on that day.
And it was Ollie's quote at the end of the game, I think he said, where he said it's almost embarrassing being applauded by the fans after that kind of performance. And, it wasn't just the Cardiff performance, it was the Huddersfield performance, it was the performances before that felt so lackluster. And when a team like Cardiff comes to your home ground and really shows you up as if it's their own home ground, it is embarrassing. And you can see the look on maybe, we're going to talk about a bit later, but Pogba's face and a few other star players' faces, that they seemed like they weren't really into it. They weren't even really bothered by it at the end. They just wanted to walk off, and like you said, Kieran, they looked like they already bought their holidays and they were ready to pack their bags and go. And really the only person who can have their head held high is Mason Greenwood. Yeah. He had 7 shots in the game, 4 on target. And Etheridge, I think, if he didn't have the great game that he already had, it would have been a goal or two to Greenwood. But everyone else, though, don't deserve anything from that performance. No. And, Lindelof, Shaw were left off the team sheet. I think that was done on purpose, obviously, because, in my opinion, they've been the 2 best players in the season. Yeah. And they deserve the break. But then again, even if we don't have those 2 players in, that is not an excuse for that back 4 to be so... They're lacking in everything. I can't really say one positive thing about everyone else except Greenwood, because anytime we were in that attacking third, nothing was really created. Again, the only person who did seem to create things out of nothing was Greenwood, and at times Pereira. In the midfield, there was no control. It felt like they were really excited just to get the ball away from themselves rather than keeping the tempo, pass. And then the defence, I mean, Jones and Smalling, are we very surprised at this point to see those kind of performances? And Ashley Young, we could talk all day about him, but at the end of the day, when you see your captain, taking free kicks the way he did, did he have any completed crosses in the end? I don't know if he did.
It was 1 out of 12
okay.
successful crosses in the end, and you think, right, from Man United fullback, it should, even from any fullback, like, I've seen teams, I've been watching non-league games, like League 2 games, League 1 games, and it's like, you see fullbacks putting a better shift and better crossing ability than Ashley Young. And people say, but, he's a left winger playing as a left back, but it's like, okay, you reverse that, and you could argue, I don't want to compare to other players, but it's like, look at Zinchenko at Man City. Sure. He joined as an attacking midfielder and behind the 10, and he got trained to be a left back at the age of like 19, 20 years old. Yeah, Ashley Young, who's 33, can't manage to sort of stay down that left side position. Yeah. So Young's really got no excuses, really, and like obviously he had his comments after the Huddersfield game, I think, where he was like, you can't fault the effort of the lads and stuff like that. Oh. And then there was a video that came out of Lindelof trying to G everyone up, and then Young stood there on the touchline, just hands on his hips, trying to look for any excuse to sort of palm the blame off to anyone else, not even motivating the side. And it's just shambolic, really. Yeah.
I mean, you could tell just the atmosphere. I've never even, I mean, speaking as a United fan, I've never seen an atmosphere at the end of a season, a home game like that. I mean, where it's something that's gone pretty viral, the fans in Stretford End kind of ripping into Paul Pogba, which is something I can't speak for other United fans. I can't really understand that, to be honest.
I think at that point they're venting. If you ask me, I wasn't there when they were obviously having a go at him. It seemed a bit like Pogba was giving a little bit back. But I think at a certain point, fans want one person to blame. I guess Pogba was the closest person to point at. I personally, I do think Pogba's had probably, one of his worst seasons in United shirt this season, only because of.
It's going to divide opinion, though, isn't it? Because he's still putting up decent numbers, but is all that effort
what
going?
I was just going to say is that in the middle of the season, he was playing really well, I felt. But in the beginning and end, obviously, that's when things fell apart. But I don't think you can really point the finger and say it's him. I think because, he does have the big name, he does have the big presence, that's who everyone goes for. He isn't the main problem. He just happens to be the biggest name that is one of the many problems. And going forward, obviously, I think the least of our worries is Pogba. I think you've got to sort out the back four. You have so much you have to do. But that video that was released online was just, it's horrendous because, it's the last game of the season and one of the first things the fans do is ridicule the players while they're coming off the pitch. And, some fans are booing. It's not great.
I mean, it's like you can understand sort of fans' frustrations over the season because, they will look to Pogba as a sort of first sort of go-to as to say, like, well, why aren't you trying harder? Why aren't you trying harder? Rather than sort of looking around and see, like, with Pogba, like, there is an argument to be made that, if you look at the players around him, like, compared to what he had to say Juve, well, like the players that players like Marquisio, Pirlo, Arturo Vidal, sort of getting the best out of him. Whereas here, he hasn't got that sort of luxury, and that probably makes him stand out a bit more because he's expected to carry the burden load of the team. Yeah. But then you see some of his sort of, it's the comments what he comes out with. I think if he doesn't come out with the sort of comments like, Real Madrid is a dream club to play for and stuff like that, or he talks about sort of joining Zidane. I think if he doesn't come out with those comments, he probably won't get that much abuse what he did on Sunday. But it's the fact that he's made those comments, it sticks in fans' minds more than say the numbers what he's actually produced this season.
Well, yes. Brings us on nicely as well to what's been coming out this morning, what Patrice Evra did with an exclusive interview with Gary Neville. He literally said, and I don't think I'm being presumptuous here, that we won't see Paul Pogba in a United shirt next season. I don't think it's going to happen. I think you can tell with the comments that Evra came out with this morning. He said, look, me and Paul, we FaceTime every day, we talk every day, but I think you should leave the club. He said that after, I think... And that just says everything, to be honest. You could tell with his body language after the game on Sunday as well. It was almost as if he was just like...
Well, he was giving some of it back to the fans.
He was like, he doesn't have to care at this stage, I think. And he was going on about as well, he actually... It spoke volumes, whatever was saying. A guy who loves the club that much coming out and lambasting. He even said, like, Alexis Sanchez went to United for the money.
No, yeah.
And he said, you know, he had the option to play for City under Guardiola, a manager that is going to improve him. And let's face it, Manchester City are miles ahead of United now.
They're a monster. They're an absolute monster.
They're a monster of football at the moment, like
Yeah.
you said, and we're just so far behind. Yet Sanchez decided not to go to City, to take up United for that, whatever it is, 500, 350k, whatever it is. And he just said that's completely wrong. And it looks like as if we're probably going to see the last of Pogba.
It's we're in the stage right now where we need to rebuild. And right now, star players are not going to be wanting to stay at the club for a rebuild. They want to win, and you can't really blame them. But when you see a lot of the passionless players that do put on the shirt and play, it's not like they play well. They just play because they have to. At least that's what it seems. And you know, Pogba during the Cardiff game, there was times when I think he almost tried to make it look as if he was running.
Yeah.
But he was like doing that slow little jog that he does, and that almost half-assed ability. I'm not saying, you know, he might just be fed up. That doesn't mean he might not want to play in the United shirt. He just might be fed up something in the dressing room. He might be, you know, there's a lot of factors that we don't know. But all we can take in is what we're given, right? And the way that, you know, he was interacting with the fans at the end, he definitely didn't do himself any favors by clapping them and then doing the hand gestures like you were saying. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see the last of him in a United shirt. Wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see Sanchez suit up again, because that's personally what I want. I want him away from the club. The issue we have now is obviously financially with Sanchez. How will we, you know, offset his wage? No one's going to really want to take in the monstrous.
Yeah, well, we're going to probably
on.
have to pay probably half or even more than that towards his wages. It is, but it's like with the Sanchez thing, it's when he came in, it's like his wage, sort of the figures have been sort of thrown around. People say he's earning 500k. People say he's earning. I think the one I sort of believe in is that he's earning like I think about 390, but there's like an extra 75 every time he plays.
So he's earning 350, whatever it is.
He's earning 390 per week,
Yeah.
but it's basically every time he plays. So, for example, the Huddersfield game where he actually played, he pops in number 75k. It's just like ridiculous.
Wow. That's more than like the average Premier League player.
It's not just like Sanchez coming in. So, like, obviously, when he came in, it destroyed that sort of that left-hand partnership, that tandem we had of say like Rashford start and then Martial coming off the bench, or vice versa. But it also upset the wage structure because players. Obviously, we got to Herrera, sort of the thing with that, but it's made players think, okay, if he's earning 400 grand a week, why am I not earning 400 grand a week? And then it makes a huge sort of a really bad monopoly to be in as a club. The fact that players trying to ask for more wages, when if you look at their performances, you would definitely argue none of them deserve those wages. The only one you'd say over the past like 3 or 4 years that he deserves maybe those sort of wages is De Gea, despite his form.
Yeah. And that leaves as well David De Gea. It's been rumoured that he's going to follow Ander Herrera, who, since we did the last podcast, confirmed that he is going to leave. He hasn't said PSG yet, but you can put two and two together and get 4 and say that.
Well, they're definitely looking for a keeper right now.
Yeah, PSG are looking for the keeper. Buffon's on the way out.
Yeah.
And it looks like there is going to be a mass exodus this summer. Whoever it is who's going to oversee that, apparently, if the papers are Sky Sports News, their sources are led to believe, Darren Fletcher's our leading candidate for director of football. What do we make of that?
Okay. Obviously, he has heavy connections with the United team, and there was that point where people weren't sure if he was going to return to playing football a few years ago, obviously, and he took on a coaching role at United. And you know what? He does have a good relationship with the fans. He has a good relationship with some of the players that have been there for years. I'm looking at you, Phil Jones, and Chris Smalling, people who have been there for so long. And, you know, I honestly don't know at this point who we're going to get. I don't know who to believe. I don't know really who's the right man, because I don't think even really anybody in the coaching staff knows who's the best man. But Darren Fletcher, you know, if he's able to do the job, great. But I'm more concerned about what will he do, not who's the man behind everything.
Yeah.
That's what
I mean, I know like Gary Neville was on Sky Sports saying that it's sort of good like getting. Well, he said like he was a bit critical, wasn't he, of the fact that United were linked with bringing former players back like Rio and Fletcher and stuff like that. He said you should get the best person in for that role. It's like, for example, I've seen reports this morning that Arsenal are in for the former Monaco sporting director, who he was part of the reason why they sort of recruited the likes of Mbappe when he was very young.
bringing them through and stuff like that.
Bringing them through and stuff. And you can sort of see Neville's points on that, but then it's like you still need someone who can understand the foundations of the club. And obviously Fletcher came through United and stuff, but he was never sort of first thing, because obviously he had like Keane Scholes, Carrick and Scholes like that. But he was a player that understood and grafted for that club.
Yeah.
He understood the sort of principal values of what it takes to be a Man United player, and it might be a great addition, because he can sort of identify the players, because it's not a director of football term role, is it? It's technical director.
Yeah, there's different, like, it's like splitting hairs a little bit of what each title does, but essentially, well, there was talk, like you were saying, well, Rio Ferdinand is apparently going to be not as a technical director, but as a transfer liaison, whatever that is, but I don't know.
They all come under the same umbrella.
I think they come under the same umbrella as stuff they're going to do.
But like I said, it's like, you do need players that sort of like fit that Man United mould, and obviously if you look at half the squad, well, probably the majority of the squad to be fair, if you look at them and think, right, probably none of them really fit the actual mould what you need for an actual Man United player, apart from say there are some players you sort of, I think, really play for the badge, like say I think Rashford does, although he gets a lot of stick.
Yeah, that's something I've noticed in the comments on the videos as well. A lot of people, not just picking out us, but picking out a lot of United fan channels, saying that we don't get on the backs of the Rashfords or the Lingards or anything like that.
Well,
I think the difference is like, maybe people like, and this is not me bashing Paul Pogba, this is me just taking an example of Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba's earning like 300k a week. He was brought, I mean, he is the leader in that dressing room.
Yeah.
He had the captain's armband and it was whipped out. We're expecting more, and that clip we were talking about him, people like Rashford, fair enough they may miss open goals, but you can even watch him and Lingard in the City game. That first half,
they know what it's about.
The reason we had them in the first is them pressing.
No, you're right.
They're running off the ball, pushing them constantly. And with players like Pogba, you're just not getting that. That's why we're picking out players like Pogba, because we expect that little bit more, because he is, by all terms, a better footballer than players like Jesse Lingard and Marcus Rashford. He's this world superstar, and he's just not given it at the moment.
We're talking about players who know what it's like to play for United, and in my opinion, probably the biggest player who embodies it is Ander Herrera in my mind. Yeah. And I don't know if he was actually asking for absurd amounts of money or not, but when you have a man like that who's passionate about the club, who he's a good footballer as well. He's not just like some nobody.
No, he's very good.
And that man can lead, and we've seen that. And I don't blame him for going, because I think he's shown plenty of times why he deserves to be at the forefront. Maybe not wage-wise, but I think, at least give him the captain's armband. He's shown what it means to be a player. I mean, I think, you look at Lingard, you look at Rashford, they know what it's like. And, Lindelof, I think over the past 2 years, he's really come to love the club, love the fan base. But then we have people like Sanchez coming in, who I think, he might not really get what it means to be a part of it.
He doesn't give
a shit. And that's not him.
He's happy cashing his
he
wages.
said this. He came in for the money. And, there's, to a certain point, nothing really too wrong with that, as long as you can give something back. Sanchez giving absolutely nothing back. Pogba, he's from our academy, and he should know what it means to be a United player and have that passion. But then he shows the attitude that he's shown in the past few months, and it gets to a point where people talk more to the press about what it is to be a player there and show what the right attitude is, and then what they show on the pitch. It's anything but aggression. It's anything but passion. For me, a player like Herrera leaving is probably it's one of the worst things I've seen from this whole team to do in the past few years, because that's a guy who can really, if he's in the starting lineup, he might not be the best on the field, but he will definitely lead your team. And we've seen that multiple times when Ollie first came into the team. I think he was really one of our key players. And we've noticed that, I think, when he's been injured and when he's gone away. And it's really sad to see that we're re-signing, Ashley Young, Phil Jones.
Yeah.
I love Mata, but he honestly shouldn't be starting right now.
Yeah, on the sort of the Phil Jones Smalling thing, obviously just talked about the reason why they got him to sign the new deals is because so they can sort of get cash value.
Yeah.
Sort of get cash from them. But it's like, you look at any team in the Premier League, and probably some in the Championship as well, who's realistically going to take either one of Chris Smalling, Phil Jones, or Ashley Young?
Yeah.
The only person I could probably make a case for is perhaps Smalling, because I think Smalling is maybe the type of player where if you get about 3, maybe 4 centre backs, sort of like better ones around him, he can come in and be like a squad player and just come in and do a job. So if you have someone great next to him, he can just sort of lead him through and things like that. But then, in terms of Phil Jones and Ashley Young, you sort of sit there and you think who would realistically take any of them. And
you're right.
And it's like, you sign on for cash value, but it's like, but you're not going to get, you're probably not going to get any cash back anyway from them deals.
No. But even, you're talking about Chris Smalling, but he shouldn't be starting.
No.
Either way, he should be on the bench. And I'd be perfectly fine with him being on the bench. But Lindelof, obviously, he's our key star. Bailly, I do love Bailly, but he gets injured way too frequently. I'm not saying get rid of him, but it's time for someone to take over that role, someone to take over that back four, because what we've always lacked is a good left. Well, I guess good left back now, Luke Shaw. I'll take that back, but two good centre back. I've been a fan of Luke Shaw this season.
Yeah, I think he's done well to sort of come back from where he was in terms of like squad status and things like that. But then it's mistakes like against Huddersfield, stuff like it does make you question. So I think Delo's going to be a good prospect. Obviously, he's not there yet. I think to be fair with Eric Brighty, when he came back for that Chelsea game, I actually thought until his injury, until he got injured, I thought that was probably one of the best I've seen with Bailly Lindelof at the back. So one of the best
I agree.
Because there was a time where there's a point in the game where Kante broke free from a corner, and obviously Bailly was up because obviously defenders go for corners stuff like that. But Bailly was chasing him down. He was chasing Kante down, and he caught up to him and stuff like that. And I was thinking that's what it actually means. You're chasing down one of the best defensive midfielders in the world. You're chasing him down. That's what it means to be a Man United player. You should be chasing down every single ball, no matter who's on the ball. Yeah. Sort of thing.
I mean, that's what I was saying this summer to a few of the lads. This summer transfer window here is probably the biggest, definitely the biggest one I can remember. This will make or break the club, in my opinion, for the next 5 to 6 years.
I have a bad feeling nothing's going to happen.
We recruit badly, that's going to put us another 6 years behind, and then it could be 15, 20 years.
It feels as though we've had this conversation.
It
feels as though, because at the end of the Moyes season, I personally don't think from United standpoint that there won't be any other season worse than that. I feel as though this season
may have eclipsed us.
This season may have eclipsed it, and sort of transfer wise, obviously at the end of Moyes' season you had a lot of old heads and stuff like that. You had Rio coming towards the end of his career.
Vidic.
I think Vidic at that point was off to Inter Milan.
Vidic's last season at United was Moyes' season. Yeah. So
you had obviously Giggs retiring. You need to replace a lot of old heads of bringing a team for the future, and obviously United, they didn't do that. And then when Jose came in, you thought, right, here we go. You brought in 4 big signings. You thought, okay, here we go. Here comes the start of something sort of special with Jose. And then it seems like United just back in that same position where it's another rebuild. And then it's going to come to, say, next season where, say, if United finish outside the top 4 again, it's going to be labelled as another rebuild. Yeah. And then if it keeps happening, another rebuild.
Well, it looks like he's rebuilding now. In the last week, the news broke that we've agreed, allegedly, Sky sources, again, take that what you want, have agreed a deal, 15 million to sign Daniel James. I'm not even going to pretend I've heard of the kid. I remember seeing that goal he scored against, who was it? Brentford, when he absolutely paced whoever it was, the centre back. That's all I've seen of him. Have any of you lads?
I've seen a YouTube highlight.
YouTube highlight compilation. Yeah, that's all included.
I mean, I've heard from a few. One of my best friends is a Wales fan, and he was going on about, and he's an Arsenal fan. And he was saying how he thinks we got away with one, getting Daniel James. That it's a good signing. From the stats I've seen though,
4 goals, 7 assists.
I don't know why we're getting such a good player, and apparently Leeds were after him. He's an Aston Villa reject, and also Shrewsbury. He went on loan to Shrewsbury.
Leeds had an offer of 8.5 million. No, they were in for 8.5 million around about January, and I believe it got rejected.
Yeah, it turned out he was at the training ground. He didn't know the wingy on it. He just pulled out last minute. But I mean, one of my mates said that to me. Who supports a championship team, he said, for 15 million we could have gone in there and gotten 4 or 5 players better than Daniel James. So he says. I mean, I don't know. Ollie Watkins is a kid I've seen a good bit. I'm not sure if he's...
I just want to know if it's an Ollie signing or if it's a commercial signing. And I guess we'll find out if it's true. I guess we'll find out.
I think it would definitely be an Ollie signing, because I doubt Ed would probably know who Daniel James is.
Yeah, true.
You might have seen him on Twitter one day.
Unless he's got a high FIFA rating.
He probably sits there, he's like, what's Swansea City? Like that. This is like... Now with Daniel James, I think the one game people should look to, and obviously it'd probably be a highlighted game anyway, but the FA Cup game against City, which I think was quarter-final.
Yeah.
He was up against Delph, I think, that day, or maybe it's a joke, I'm thinking Delph. And down that right-hand side, he basically, whenever he got the ball, no matter who it was against, say if Laporte was covering over or Otamendi, whoever, he just ran out, and you think, okay, United desperately need someone down that right hand side, which is partly the reason why I believe that Ollie's been playing his narrow formation. Is the fact that United got no actual width.
He's so left heavy. If you look at Luke Shaw's heat maps from previous games, he hugs that touchline.
United's so sort of left heavy, and that's why probably that narrow formation. That's why Ollie's been playing it, because you got no one literally covering on the width. But like with Daniel James, he picks the ball up and he just runs. He just runs at you, and obviously we've seen in the past players who just had pace, like say like an Aaron Lennon or a Walcott. They've had pace, but they've had no discernible ability.
Yeah, kind of like Adama Traore as well. He's just pace machine. No
and
final
with Daniel James, obviously he's still young, and you think maybe if he goes to a club like United, he's got the pace. But he doesn't need to work on that because he's rapid.
Yeah.
You think if you fine tune his other qualities, could get a decent player out, and 15 million, you'd argue it's maybe no risk.
Yeah, for United anyway, considering we £48, it's like income every £100 we earn, £48 of it goes on wage. But I don't know, Daniel James, it's left to be seen. Anyway, if you guys like the video, if you like what we're doing, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Drop comments down below for suggestions for the next podcast, and we'll see you next week. Thanks again.
See you guys.